Imagine having an airy, spacious home with kids who happily tidy up and help with the housework. Imagine handling toys, gift occasions like Easter, Diwali, and birthdays, Hanukkah, Christmas, and Hogmanay, and grandparents bringing over things every time they come with peace and with ease. Imagine kids happily donating and discarding things they no longer use or find joy in. Thank you for watching. This particular piece of Harmony at Home Retreat is Making Peace with Abundance, Kids and Their Stuff. I'd like to first thank Coralie for the opportunity to present this for you all today, and for you for showing up and for trying to figure out how to handle all this stuff that we have. Can you just imagine having an airy, spacious home and having kids who happily tidy up and do housework and handling all the gifts, all the coming in stuff, and handling sentimental things easily and letting things come and go without clinging or panicking over memories. Imagine kids happily donating and discarding things that they no longer find joy in. It is all possible, I promise. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of what has worked for my clients around the world, many of whom have had serious snowdrifts of clutter and toys throughout their homes, and kids who couldn't get through an errand without begging or demanding new items, stickers, stuffies, craft supplies, books, toys, junk food, and more. Just more all the time. Let's start with the last one, the joy of the gimmies. Abundance is hard for people. It's hard for everybody in our world to handle the abundance that we have. We have too many choices, and that's overwhelming. And we have too much stuff. We just have too much stuff. That's all there is to it. I mean, some people don't have too much stuff, but they're not watching this to find out how to get rid of or deal with all the stuff. Abundance is difficult because we have survived 100,000 years of shortages and lack and starvation and not enough and seriously limited resources. When you're in a forest or a jungle or on a beach, there's what you can reach. We've lived through, if there's a famine or a drought or a blight or a plague, or we run out of things. And now we live in a world where when the grocery store doesn't have all the things, people get seriously bizarre about, demanding that the staff bring the things back out of the back. There was a funny moment in where I grew up in Victoria, BC. We had a truck strike, and that meant that there was nothing coming over. Victoria's on an island. Nothing was coming over from what we call the Big Island, North America. Nothing was coming over. So there was real shortages of anything that hadn't been produced on the island. So there was a limited amount of toilet paper. They'd run out of meat. There's all kinds of things that just wasn't on the grocery store shelves. And there were so many people who were so used to how much stuff we have in our world today that they couldn't wrap their head around the fact that it had run out, that there wasn't more in the back, that there wasn't just called the distributor, that there genuinely just wasn't any more. We're used to abundance, but we still don't handle it very well. Which brings me to economics. One of the reasons we don't handle it very well is because we don't think about it, I think, in a way that really works. We think of economics as only being about money. If you can afford it, you can have it. And if somebody else gives it to you, it's free, and then you should keep it and this goes back to that survival thing about not having enough. We should keep it because we might run out. We might not have enough money to replace it. We might need it one day. My favorite answer to clutter, I might need it. And we all know that doesn't work. We live in the spaces that say this doesn't work, but we do it anyways. So economics is so much more than just the money. One of the things that I like to say is that even Bill Gates has to say no to stuff to his children. Even Taylor Swift can't buy everything. She's got a lot of money, but she can't buy everything, partly because she doesn't have time to buy everything. Time is a real budgeted item. You get this much time, you can do lots of stuff with it, but you don't get to have that time again, and you don't get to spend that time again. So when we're spending our time wading through the clutter or going to the store to buy more, we don't get to use that time for something else again later. And I think we don't really think about time that way very often. The other one is energy. There's a limited amount of energy. So I find, a massive amount of clutter very distracting and very draining, and most people do. Some people like clutter because it makes them feel more creative, and that's fine, because creative clutter is quite different than, just snowdrifts of every kind of toy and clothing and dishes and whatnot all up against the world. Just, shuffling through so you don't step on Lego or jacks. Never step on a jack. That hurts so much. There's economics of money, for sure. Everybody's really familiar with that, and lots of people do a whole bunch of impulse buying because they like the feeling of novelty and newness. So having a new Lego box is way better than the old Lego boxes that are already worn or the pieces are all scattered all over the place. Novelty is fun, newness is fun, and we can't discount that reality. We can't stop liking novelty, because we like novelty. Novelty is fun. We enjoy it a lot. And it's nice to have new shiny things. And we need to remember, whenever we're getting this new shiny thing, that this new shiny thing is taking the place of an old new shiny thing. And eventually we get to the point where we recognize that everything that's new and shiny right now is not going to be new and shiny quite soon. And we've already got a lot of not new and shiny in the background here. We've spent a lot of money, we've spent a lot of time on it. And it might now be time for us to say we've had enough new and shiny things, and we can just maybe shine what we already have. Which brings me to the next piece of economics: energy. There's only so much energy that you have available to you in a day before you need to rest or stop or, explode. Burnout is really popular, and clutter is a really common symptom for burnout. So burnout is related to not having enough time to take care of the things that we have. And that, I'll talk a little bit about that later, about the sentimental stuff, but not being able to take care of the things that we have is draining and overwhelming. And when we don't recognize that our energy is limited as well as our time and our money and our space, then we don't think about, well, how much maintenance is this going to take? How much longer will it take to clean up the toys if we have another 5,000 items? And I'm not kidding. I've seen toy rooms with way more than 5,000 things in them. And another 5,000 things doesn't make it easier for anybody to manage. So there's that energy piece of the amount of stuff we can have. The last piece of it, and this I'm just going to say really briefly, because it's something that not very many people think of when they're talking about what they're going to put into their clutter zone, what they're going to add to the clutter, what they're going to add to their schedule, what they're going to add to their energy use, and what they're going to add to their potential use for their time for other ways. It's called opportunity cost. And we don't talk about it very often, but the fact is, if you buy every single dollar store toy your kid wants to have every time you're there, you're going to have gone through $1 every single time you showed up in that store. And if you go 365 times, that's 365 after-tax dollars that you can't buy a $360 item with, because it's gone. And that opportunity cost is something I think people need to become much, much more aware of, much, much more sensitive to, so that they can say, if we use this opportunity here, we do not get to use that same resource here. If we're spending every afternoon after school driving around the countryside on errands to buy new things, or on activities, we can't use that time for anything else. We can't use that time for hanging out in the park. We can't use that time for reading the stories we took home from the library. We can't use that time for hanging out with grandma or auntie or our neighbor's friend. We can't use that for anything else. And the opportunity cost is not only monetary, it's also, if you use up all your energy trying to avoid dealing with all the clutter in your house and procrastinating because it's overwhelming, you don't have that energy to do something like let's bake cookies together, or let's go and visit our friends, or let's have our friends come over to visit. The opportunity costs are very real. And we need to be much more sensitive to the fact that when we use our energy, our time, our money, and our space for all that stuff without thinking about it, we don't get to use it for what we really want in our lives. Connection, adventure, real novelty, doing something new, like eating new food or trying a new recipe, or like all that all that energy that's being drained out of us because of all this stuff is energy we can't use for all the stuff that we think aspirationally I'd really like to be doing: more art, more creativity, more connection with my friends, more time doing, because the energy's gone. And that opportunity cost is a really big part of that. I don't want to belabor that point. At this point, I realize that I have touched on a couple of high key, big emotional items that are difficult to handle. And it is very common for kids to get very clingy, materialistic about their stuff for lots of reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. It's reasonable that they get into this kind of clinginess, but we need better tools to handle it. And we need them to have better tools to handle it. And the only way that they learn tools is by watching us use them. So I'd like to give you a tip for handling overwhelmed people, including yourself, especially over sentimental things, letting go of your protective clutter, staying calm and focused when kids get overwhelmed with emotions around the more stuff issue, letting things go, or, the gimmies at the store. How to stay calm and focused and centered in your own body is a technique that well, 7 techniques actually, that I have put together in a 35-minute free course. It's just a video. The link to sign up is in your web welcome package, and you only need to sign up so you can get the handout. You can unsubscribe immediately after you get it if you want. You get the handout and the link in the same email. There's no dragging it out. I'm not selling you anything. There's absolutely no sales in the video. It's just information that I think everybody on the planet really needs to have, especially people who have children, because it's just about how to get back into your body and ground it in now and bring your Thrive brain back online in high intensity moments, to practice that ability instead of spending all of our time coping or reacting to things. Moving on. Feng Shui, the free moving of things in and out of our lives. There's a piece of Taoist thought from the Tao Te Ching, which I really, really like. Everything in the world is arising and retreating back into the whatever. The Tao is what is the creation of things and the things themselves. Everything arises, everything is destroyed. And there's sort of a philosophy within it that every single thing, this teacup included, will, in the fullness of the universe, become once again its component parts and no longer be itself. I think this understanding of stuff and the energy of stuff is really helpful to understand so that we can handle more gently and more lightly the stuff in our world, so that things can freely move in and out of our lives without us clinging to them or resisting them. And I mean resisting in the way people resist discarding things, the way they resist letting things go, sharing things, like all that sort of thing, letting the movement occur, because Feng Shui is all about the movement of energy, and things flowing in and out of your life is a way of having energy moving in your life. And the more energy moves, the more energized you will feel in your spaces and your life. So there's 3 things that I think are really important when it comes to the free flowing of items. The first one goes back to the opportunity costs, the budgets, the economics. You need to define your budgets. You need to say, this is how much space I will dedicate to this and no more, and mean it. Budgets are hard to follow because they're often unrealistic. So if you have 16,000 pieces of Lego, you don't say, I'm gonna put them in a box this size, because that won't work. You need to be realistic about it. You need to be realistic about the fact that it's owned by other people. And you need to be sensitive to that. People who lose all their stuff because their parents have a complete meltdown tend to, grow up to get therapy and be very unkind about their parents when they speak about them in public. I actually knew a family, and it was a total mistake. And it was built on, I can't recenter myself and handle this situation without reacting. Mom had a fit, literally, like screaming, ranting, raging, threw all the kids' stuff into black garbage bags and put it out on the stairwell while they were, screaming and crying because they wouldn't tidy up their stuff. And then they had to go out somewhere. They went to grandma's Christmas birthday party or something. I don't know why they had to leave. And dad came home early from work and was like going to shower and, take care of himself and then meet them there later. And he saw all the garbage on the stairwell, so he took it to the dump. Three children lost everything they owned because their mom had a temper tantrum and their dad was being helpful. Now, I don't ever recommend that because I'm not sure you can apologize for that kind of activity effectively, especially not with young children. We need to define our budgets. We need to understand how much time we are going to spend on this stuff and how much time we're going to dedicate to this in our week or a month or a year. We need to decide how much energy we're going to spend on this stuff. We need to determine what opportunities we are going to reach for and which ones we are having our aspirations removed by when it comes to the space and time and energy and money use that we use for stuff. It's important to create, when you're handling kids, a couple of answer lines, because kids are liable to have, they see all the things, especially on commercials, because they're all packaged to look really alluring. The kids on the commercials look like they're having the best fun ever. The kids on the commercials for breakfast cereal look like they're enjoying the most amazing food that's ever been made because they're actors. Kids don't know that. It looks alluring. So it's very important to have a response to that makes it clear that you understand how tempting this is and how attractive it looks. And of course they want it. Why wouldn't they want it? They're sane. Of course they want it. But the fact is there's always more things to want. And that's a good line to remember. There are so many things to want. There are so many things to want. I like my mom's approach to it. She decided, because she got promoted, it was kind of a joke, but she got promoted at work to the Empress of the Universe because they couldn't give her a pay raise, but they wanted to acknowledge how much they valued her. So she picked her title. So she decided she was the Empress of the Universe. And not very long after that, while her house was too full of clutter and they were having to move my grandmother into care and my grandfather into a more advanced facility, and they had to clear out all their stuff, which was two in 1 year was a lot. And they decided they were not going to do this to us, although I think they've gone back to cluttering up their houses a little bit more. But she decided that everything in the universe is hers and other people can take care of it. So she goes to stores and visits it. She says, it's lovely. You go to like a store, you act like it's an art gallery. You're like, oh, that's really pretty. And then you go home and you keep your money and your peaceful, calm, clutter-free house because you're not bringing all this stuff in all the time. They also are very careful that they ask for comestibles. They want things that they can consume, places to go, things to do, stuff to eat, for gifts rather than things. They don't want stuff anymore. And I think that's a really good thing to model for our kids, to really get better at saying, I would rather have a dinner out. I'd rather hang out with my friends. I'd rather have a party. I'd rather have an adventure than more stuff to figure out where to put and to feel like I have to display. You gave me this thing in order to handle this stuff. Other answer lines are things like, what will we let go of to make room for that? That's based entirely on space economy. We already have as many of these colored pens or whatever that we have room for. Which pens do you want to get rid of to get these? And often kids are much more attached to the stuff they already have. People are more attached to the stuff they already have than they are to the idea of getting more stuff and making that go away. You need to be really, really clear yourself that that is exactly what's going to happen. This is a one-to-one trade. Something comes in and takes the space, that leaves. So somebody else can have it. We're saving money, space, time, energy for whatever goal. We have an opportunity that we're looking forward to. Have we decided not to hold that goal anymore? If you say in finances, if you say, I've decided to buy a car, so I'm going to put all my extra money on buying a car. And then friends say, hey, let's meet at the coffee shop. And you say, okay. So you stare at the coffee shop menu and there's a $7 item and there's a $1.50 item. And you think to yourself, well, the $7 item's got a lot of sugar in it. I like that. The $1.50 item saves me $5.50 and I still want that car. You can't keep spending all your money on little tiny things if you want big things. So while you're standing in the coffee shop with your friends and you say to yourself, do I want that coffee with lots of sugar in it, or do I want my car sooner rather than later? Because eventually, I mean, even if you're only saving $1.50 a year, you'll eventually, if you live long enough, be able to afford a $100 car. It won't require any gas because it won't go anywhere, but you'll be able to buy it. We need to keep in mind our goals, which is, just an important thing in life in general. Don't give up what you really want for what you want right now. And I love that line. That's one of my favorites entirely. And just in life in general, don't give up what you really want to get what you want right now. Because if you really want to become a law professor and your opportunity here is to go away for the weekend instead of studying for the midterm, is on Monday, you can go away for the weekend and have a party, but you can't pretend that the law professor goal is very serious if you're not going to do what it takes to get there. Just blow off the exam, whatever, because you're hungover or you didn't get back or whatever. You can't have what you really want if you keep using all of your energy, all of your time, all your money, and all your space on things that you want right in this moment. Also, the last piece of the feng shui for free-flowing things in and out is personalize your criteria for giving, for donating, and for keeping. Giving and donating are the same. Discarding, donating, and keeping. Suggestions, one of the ones my mom came up with, the reason why she doesn't have any more stuff on her mantle is because she likes a pretty space to look at. And that's a valid goal. I liked Fly Lady. Her reason for cleaning up her house was because she decided that every hour she spends taking care of her home blesses her family. Now, that's whatever your values, goals, or whatever, is absolutely fine. Pick the one you like. I prefer it to look stylish. I prefer my spaces to be peaceful. This used to give me joy, and now it can give somebody else joy. We don't fix things. So if this needs to be fixed, we need to give it away so somebody who fixes things can fix it. What was the other one? Oh, if we don't make it look like it's cherished, is it? That one I learned from a TV program I can't remember the name of. I really liked it. It was like a decluttering show that I thought touched the feelings of the issue a little bit more, because people do get really clingy to their stuff and they really need it, and it feels protective and it involves a lot of trauma. There's a lot of background to being very cluttered. And I think if we discard and pretend that the emotions aren't real and we just do it like an automaton, we actually make the problem a whole lot worse. So I think we need to deal with the feelings behind it. But when something is deeply sentimental to you, if it's in a pile of trash, getting walked all over or shoved to the side or piled onto or dropped off the side, you can't really pretend out loud to anybody who will listen that you cherish that item, because cherished items are the items that we actually take care of and display and are proud of. And, I have on my desk this particular item, which isn't particularly valuable, but it has a little plaque on it. I won this in an international writing contest, and I'm very proud of that. I actually really like the piece that I wrote, and I was really chuffed when I won it. And so I have probably 1,000 pens in my house because I have a little bit of an office supply problem. But that set of pens sits on my desk where I can see it, because every time I look at it, it makes me smile a little bit. I won that. I won that because of something I created. And I think that's really cool. I can't pretend that's valuable if it's at the bottom of a box filled with pens that I got from a trade show that have everybody else's logo on them. There's nothing about that that says I cherish this. There's nothing about that that says that I like this in my life and it brings me joy. That's just like, chuck it in a box, who cares? So I think we need to be really careful with the stuff that we pretend we're sentimental over. Having 16 boxes of baby clothes and toys in the basement getting moldy doesn't say I cherished these items. However much you may have cherished that stage in your child's life, having them go bad instead of getting used by somebody else who can't afford clothes. I have such a limited amount of sort of tolerance anymore for hanging on to more stuff than we need. And I think it comes back down to that. Does this give me joy, or would it be better if it gave somebody else joy? Is giving it to a thrift shop that supports the hospital foundation actually a better use of my baby's things than keeping them in a box that I never open and never look at, and every now and then look at and feel kind of guilty about, but not like, keep an item that you remember, or an item that matches it, that's from a picture that you love or something, but all of it cannot be cherished if all of it cannot be handled in a way that is cherished. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind when we're talking about the sentimental stuff, because the sentimental stuff is important to us. It really, we can't pretend it's not important to us, but it can't all be the same amount of important, because we don't have the energy or the space or the time or the money to cherish that much stuff. And I think, it's fear that brings all that in, and we hold on to things because we fear letting them go, because then we're afraid, well, then our love will disappear with it, or our memories will disappear with it. And another line that you might want to remember for keeping in mind when you're thinking of things is, their love is not in that stuff. Your love is not in that stuff. Stuff is not love. Stuff cannot take the place of love. There's no connection in stuff. You might be reminded of your memories, but the memories are yours, whether you keep the stuff or not. And you can be reminded of it by going through your pictures. And pictures are actually a better, easier way of handling memories than the 65 crates of stuff that you will accumulate in an average child's life. So the last thing that I'd like to give you today is, my hair is going to drive me completely nuts. Not the least of it because it does that. All right. The very last thing is helping you deal with the clutter on a daily basis, rather than doing the whole, I'll clean it up 1 year and it'll take 15 weeks. It'll be this massive project. And every time I look at clutter, I will always think, oh my God, it is the biggest pile of clutter I can imagine. It'll take 15 weeks to deal with. There's a thing called conditioning that happens kind of accidentally to people all the time. We're conditioned to react poorly to our environments, partly because our brains are really good at shorthand. they're good at being efficient. We're very good at not using energy, as our brains are. Our brains don't want to use energy if they can avoid it. So they'll learn things and then keep that learning even if new information comes in. So if you have 6 experiences of cleaning up a terribly messy house, and all of them took an entire weekend, or 5 weekends, or 3 weeks solid with like 5 friends helping you, the next time you look at clutter and think, I should tidy that up, your brain will say, yeah, but it takes 5 weeks. You're like, oh, I don't have time. So we need to recondition our brain. And the way to recondition our brain is to set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and stop, no matter what. Stop right in the middle of it. Even if you're on a roll, you get half the drawer cleared out and you're like, oh, it won't take me. Don't do that. Timer goes off, you stop. Go sit down, have a cup of tea, help yourself to a snack, go stand and stare out the window. Teach your brain that decluttering is a 5 and 10-minute task. And you can't do it by staying on a roll. Discard or donate piles of multiples of 9. This is a feng shui thing as well. It's like the energy of 9 is magical somehow. So always, like every day or every week, walk around your house and just think 9. I need 9. So I'm going to throw that out. I'm going to discard that. I'm going to donate that. And you can decide, this week I'm doing donations. Next week I'm doing discards. So the first time it's like, this is good enough for somebody else to use still. This is still okay. This is still okay. You get 9 things to donate. And the next week you do 9 things that need to be thrown away, or that can be thrown away. This isn't good enough. This is broken. We don't fix things. If we fix things, this would be fixed. We don't fix things. And if you think, oh, I will fix it, okay, put it on the calendar for the date you are going to do it, not the date it's going to be done by. Block out the time it's going to take to do. Write it in your calendar. Carve it in stone. And if you get to that calendar moment and don't do it, it's done. Send it away. Stop lying to yourself about, I'm going to make the time. I have the energy, skills, talent, or ability. the tools to fix this. Stop pretending and let somebody else have it. Donate it if it's fixable. People like picking up things to fix. Tinkering people love tinkering with things. You give them broken stuff, they'll be very happy. Send it away. Call the people who pick up donations every Friday or Monday or the 15th of every month. Or set a standing plan. They come every Tuesday, second Tuesday of the month. They just show up at your house and pick up whatever's out. Put it on your calendar. Everything you have in the donation pile goes there every whatever. I like this because you don't have to put it in your car, drive around with it in your car for 3 weeks until you have time to drive to that location you passed 6 times in the last 5 weeks. They come and get it. Perfect. Sort a drawer while you're talking with a friend. In fact, make a deal with your friend. I'm going to work on my drawer the whole time we're talking. And I'll tell you when I'm finished sorting out my drawer. So that if you get to half an hour and your friend says, are you still doing your drawer? Oh, right, I was doing your drawer. It's in ADHD care, it's called body doubling. And it's just having somebody else who knows you're doing the job so that you just stay on task a little bit better. It's kind of a little light accountability that works better than checking in with them tomorrow, whether or not you did it, because you just stop talking to them after a while. Pack a box full of stuff, not paperwork, random, like scoop things into a box, date it, and put it somewhere out of the way, all in one motion. Do not stop until it is stowed. So get your little labeling pen, get your little roll of tape, get your box, decide where you're going to put it all. Slide a whole bunch of junk into the box until it's full, tape it shut, label it, and put it away. Label it with the date. And in 3 months, if nobody has ever looked for anything that's in that box or noticed that it's missing, it can just get donated. Because if you wanted it or you needed it, you would have noticed. One of my favorite things to do to children is pack up all of their toys, except for like a doll, a ball, and 6 books. Just pack them all up, put them all away, take them to grandma's, make them go away. They're not given away, they're just out of the way. All the art materials except for whatever they're currently using. Markers, charcoal, pens, crayons, watercolors, whatever they actually use or whatever they like to use the most. Keep that. Everything else can go. Nobody needs 17 different kinds of glitter or glue or types of things to make marks with, or paper or pom-poms, or nobody needs all that stuff. Just take it away. And after you've lived with none of this stuff in your house for at least a month, talk about whether or not they want to go through any of it. Or if there's something they really miss actually using. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't know, because we're a long way away from it, it was before I was born, the 50s, before there was lots of discretionary money, before there was lots of opportunities, toy stores used to be small and expensive because they were mostly handmade. Very rich people had more toys than everybody else. Sometimes lots of rich kids never had toys either. Most kids would have a bat and a ball and a glove, maybe, because not everybody had a bat. You could use your friends. That was the other thing. I don't need to have all this stuff if my friends have it because we play together. Neighborhoods would have all the stuff, not any one person. And maybe a couple of books, but there was a library, so why would you own them? And literally, department stores brought toys in for December, which doesn't work very well for Easter, but Easter used to be clothing mostly. Kids would get clothes. Here's your summer dress, here's your new hat. It was not a toy giving opportunity. And often for birthdays, kids would get clothes they needed, or a new set of mittens, or they would get a bike once in their life. They didn't get a bike every year. They certainly didn't have a bike, a Segway, a scooter, and 7 other kinds of things to ride on, roller skates and everything. It's my generation and later that had the snow drifts of toys. I had so many Barbies and clothes, it was ridiculous. My children had 200 Barbie dolls at one point. And what we don't remember or never knew, because we're too young, is that children don't need toys or anything. And they get clingy with their stuff for lots of reasons that I don't have time to go into here. But that doesn't mean they need it. And it doesn't mean it's better for them to have than not have. So when you clear out all the toys and leave them with like a dress-up box and a big box, because big boxes are like the best toy in the history of the universe, and a big pile of dirt, and their bike and some books, and something that they can use to make art, maybe a stuffy or two. What you find is that they not only find their imaginations again, but they no longer react to the clutter noise in their house. They also go back to being able to tidy their rooms themselves, because 6-year-olds can't handle an inventory of 5,000 items in a bedroom that was made for 17, any more than an adult can handle 65,000 items in a house that was made for 4 people and some clothes. Just because we have the opportunity to have all this stuff doesn't mean it's actually better for people than not having it. And there's that big draw to the feeling left out thing. And I will just say again, that's your fear brain talking. That's your survival brain. That's your lack brain saying, oh, but if we don't have enough, then if we don't have enough Legos, then what? Who's going to die? Are we going to starve to death? Is it going to cause a drought? Are we going to have an earthquake? Like, it's not rational. And the problem with our survival brain is that it's not rational. When we spend all our time coping with stress, our survival brain is the only thing we have any access to, which is why I gave you the opportunity to take that 35-minute course, helping you understand how what your survival brain looks like, what it's doing in your life, and the things that you used to think of as your personality that actually turned out to be your survival brain, and what happens when you get into your thrive brain instead, so that you can bring yourself into your thrive brain, so you can help your child bring themselves into their thrive brain, and we can all let go of this clinging to stuff thing. And it becomes much easier for you to really carefully and thoughtfully evaluate. I want to keep this small item because it reminds me of my great-grandmother. I wear it. I love it. I think it's beautiful. And it takes up this much space because it's a pin. It's in my jewelry box. And I wear it every now and then whenever I wear a jacket, which obviously is not often. If we can get into our thrive brains more often, you will find peace and calm inside your house. An airy, spacious home with kids who happily tidy up and help with the housework. Because it is really possible to make peace with abundance and help your kids handle their stuff in a way that makes your home happier and calmer and tidy, welcoming, and easy to take care of. It really is possible if you follow these 5 steps. If you're having difficulties with that, you call. Let's see how I can help you.